This is me. I'm Harry, and with me is my brother Jim. And here's the third member of the gang, Ranger. Ranger is Jim's. He's had him for 2 years now. We would have had a dog earlier, but Mum was out at work, and there was nobody at home all day. Dogs don't like being left alone for long, so Jimmy had to wait. I'm saving up for a dog. She's coming from the dog's home up the road. I need the money to buy a collar, lead, and all the other things that every dog really needs. I've chosen her already. This is Honey. That's what I'm going to call her. It's all arranged, but the man at the home says she's too young. I go to see her nearly every day. Dad has been to see her as well, and he's had a chat with the man at the kennels, because we've only got a little house, and it would be wrong to have a dog which grew too large. It isn't always easy to tell how big a puppy will grow, but an expert can. While I'm waiting, Jim is helping me to get all ready, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible exactly what Honey needs and how it should be made. Of course, our dogs always sleep indoors, but poor old Tiger next door has to live out. He grew much too big for their small house. First of all, he had a running chain, but he didn't get enough freedom. So now they've built him an enclosed run, which is much better. In addition to his usual walks, he's allowed 1 or 2 hours of complete freedom every day. Tiger has a splendid kennel. Jim, who takes him for walks quite a lot, built it at his school woodwork classes. It's got a doorway in the right place so that he can get round the corner out of the draft, and he sleeps on the clean straw. His master changes it regularly and turns the kennel when the weather changes. It should face southwest in winter and northeast during the summer. Tiger takes his straw changing business as one great big game. He thoroughly enjoys every minute of it, but it's not nearly as good as sleeping indoors. Dogs like to be with people and look after them. As you can see, he's a bit excitable, and they always bring him in on Guy Fawkes night. He gets terrified of all the bangs. Most dogs are like that. Cats too, I'm told, but I've never had one. The next week was about the longest I can ever remember, but at last Saturday came, and we all went down to the dog's home to collect Honey. My parents knew the dog man because they discussed all the details well beforehand. He showed me how to pick Honey up so that both her front and back legs are supported. When you put a puppy down, he said, you must put her front feet on the ground first. It's the natural way for a dog to land. There's a risk of breaking a back leg if you do it the other way round. Small puppies should always be carried up and down stairs, otherwise there is a danger of serious injury. Then we went inside to choose a collar and lead. I must always remember, the dog man said, that just as children grow out of clothes, so dogs grow out of collars. I must make sure it's always the right size. He also gave us a book thing, which told us how to look after Honey properly. The collar and lead were a bit cheaper than I thought, so I put the rest in the box. It seemed only fair to pay for Honey's brothers and sisters. While she is small, Honey has to have 4 meals a day. Milk and puppy meal, or baked brown bread, porridge or cereal in the morning and at 4. And then at 12 and 8, she has finely chopped raw meat. She has cod or halibut liver oil with it to build her up. 1 or 2 vitamin B tablets should be given daily, and a teaspoon of bone meal or prepared chalk. Ranger has 1 big meal a day of meat, offal, or carefully boned fish, and then another smaller one of table scraps and biscuits. Ranger likes a bone too, but we never give him the splintery kind, such as chop, mutton, or chicken bones. They might injure his inside. The vet told Jim that dogs should never be given stale food, and it should never be used straight from a refrigerator. Tinned food, he said, should not be fed more than once a week, and white bread, sweet biscuits, cake, sugar and potatoes are all bad for dogs. If Honey leaves anything, we always pick it up. When she's older, she'll eat the same food at the same times as Ranger. A puppy needs some additional fat, so it should always have a teaspoon or 2 of condensed milk. Lots of things can happen when you've got a dog, little accidents that you didn't bargain for. When we put Honey into the garden after a meal, she went round the side and squeezed under the gate. No harm was done, but we'd learned our lesson. It just shows how careful you've got to be. The little book the dog man had given me on how to bring up a puppy was very useful, and we started house training Honey as soon as she arrived. If you take puppies outside often enough, particularly after meals and when they wake up, they'll soon learn. First we started to teach her to walk properly. We began in the garden. We didn't want her to mix too much with the other dogs until she'd had her injections against distemper and what the vet called virus diseases. These can be done at 3 months old. There are all sorts of collars and leads for dogs, but if you see someone using a check chain, you should look and see if it has been fitted properly. The large ring should be at the side, like this, never at the top or bottom, or it may stick and choke the dog. But when properly fitted, a choke chain is still very dangerous and should never be used, even for training. And while we're on the subject of leads, collars and walking, remember 2 things. Always keep your dog on a lead in traffic, and always have your name and address on his collar. Your name, not his, otherwise strangers can call him away. When Honey was about 3 months old, I started teaching her obedience. Just simple things like coming when she was called and staying and sitting. This is how I taught her to come when she was called. Just a gentle pull and she soon got the message. To teach a dog to sit, this is all you do. Once she gets the idea, you tell her to stay. This and, of course, being clean around the house, are all you need to teach a dog. Never make it do tricks, just make it obedient. An occasional tidbit makes all the difference. Always reward it if it does it right. Then training is easy. By now, Honey was learning to walk quite well. I kept the lead in my left hand and held it near the collar. A gentle pull back, the command heel, and a hand signal soon showed Honey what I wanted of her. Training a dog needs care and patience. It's a bit of responsibility, really, but it has to be done for a short time, regularly each day. Jim and I brushed our dogs every day, although Honey thought the brush was meant to chew. Baths should only be given when absolutely necessary. Honey wasn't old enough anyway, but Ranger sometimes needed one. Warm water and plenty of good dog soap, but be careful none goes in the eyes. Afterwards, a thorough rinse with clean water and then a good dry completed the operation. This is what Jim was told to do. We never bath them outside unless the weather is nice and warm. Sometimes, however clean you keep them, they pick up fleas and lice. In this case, the vet said, you dust the coat well with Deris or pyrethrum, never with DDT or anything containing it. You should always check the label carefully. Pay particular attention to the neck, back and chest, and always remember to put some of the powder in his bedding as well. Sometimes Daddy takes us all out in the car. Ranger loves it, but Honey took a little time to get used to it. We always remember to take drinking water with us. We find a shady place to park, but they are never left in the car for more than a minute or two, never at all on a really hot day. We leave the windows slightly open, and we take off their leads in case they strangle themselves. Dogs need plenty of exercise and a good free run in the park or on the common, but as we'd never been here before, we went and looked to make sure there were no farm animals or deer to chase. Dogs don't ask for much. Good food, clean water, plenty of exercise and freedom, a warm dry bed, regular grooming and expert veterinary care when they are ill. If you can't afford the fees, ask your local RSPCA to help, but never try to treat the animal yourself. And that's about all the material things, but what they do ask for is our friendship. They enjoy being with us. I'm so glad I've got Honey. She's become my very bestest friend.